The Tonight Show, Jay finds out what's really inside Hollow Man Kevin Bacon, plus Supermodel James King and Magic Man Lance Burton. Your local news is next.
Well, word of a possible deal in the works involving the Miami Heat. Up next at 11, it's a trade that may involve some key players. The NBC 6 News at 11 starts now.
With more than 50 years experience serving South Florida, this is WTVJ NBC 6 News.
It was certainly a frightening ordeal for a South Florida grandmother. She arrived at home only to come face to face with a trio of intruders. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Valapi.
And I'm Tony Segreto. Her night of terror didn't end there. The men pistol whipped her, kidnapped her, then held the woman for ransom until her family would agree to pay up. NBC 6 reporter Julia Yarbo is live at Miami Police Headquarters with the very latest. Julia?
Well, Tony, tonight this grandmother was a bit too shaken and distraught to speak with us, but her son did tell me his mother's tale. It seems this woman was pulled into a night of violence by default, and police are agreeing with that, saying that her abductors actually were looking for her youngest son. The motive? They won't say for sure, but they speculate that it may have something to do with his alleged drug dealings. For the second time in one day, 64-year-old Antonia Diaz is escorted by authorities and family. This time, however, she returns to what she hopes will be the safe cover of her home.
All I can say is be careful, and thanks God that she's alive.
Alive, although shaken and bruised. Miami police say Diaz suffered a kidnapping ordeal beginning at about 3:30 this morning when she returned home from playing bingo. Diaz's son says his mother tells him there were 3 men involved in this attack. One was hiding behind a van parked in the driveway. 2 others were crouched on the front porch. When she tried to enter the door, they made their move. The men, one armed, forced Diaz into a car, drove around for several hours, then ended up here at the Turk Motel. Pistol whipped and denied food and water, Diaz remained captive. The men say police were demanding money and jewelry as ransom from Diaz's family.
She was followed home. This has nothing to do with drugs. They're saying that about her son is not true.
Investigators managed to track the suspects to the motel and surrounded the place.
It was surprise on their part. They opened the door, they saw us, and it does clearly say police. And I guess they got the right idea. They turned and run.
Now, Diaz's son says his mother told him that those men had actually cut a hole in the ceiling of that hotel and taken off, and that's when police nabbed them. Now, 2 of them were caught. 1 is still on the loose. As for Diaz, she is now back at home with her family. She was taken to JMH for treatment, but doctors say she should be fine, just a couple of cuts and bruises. We're live in Miami. Julia Yarbo, NBC 6.
Julia, thank you. And meanwhile, a South Florida couple tonight accused of torturing their son is facing more charges. Earlier this month, police arrested Ricardo and Josefa Davila of Sweetwater. They've been charged with attempted murder. Now the couple is also facing kidnapping, child neglect, and aggravated battery charges. Investigators say the Davilas whipped their 12-year-old son with an electrical cord and even made him eat his own vomit. The couple is set to go on trial October the 2nd. Meanwhile, tonight, a small child is the victim of a deadly crash in Coral Springs. That accident happened this morning on Atlantic Boulevard and Coral Springs Drive. Police say 2 cars were involved. A 3-year-old child riding in one of the vehicles was airlifted to Broward General. She later died there. Police say the child was strapped in the car seat at the time. An investigation is underway. And tonight, 1 person is dead and a police officer has been injured when an emergency call ended in a violent crash.
And now there are still lingering questions about just what happened. Patricia Andrea was live in Hialeah with more. Patricia?
And at this time last night, this intersection of Palm Avenue and 32nd Street in Hialeah was closed off after a fatal accident involving a Hialeah police officer and an innocent driver. Hialeah PD says it's within its guidelines for police to run red lights when responding to emergency calls. But now there's an investigation as to why last night's response resulted in death. Tears of disbelief flow in this Hialeah home as friends and family mourn the loss of Lazaro Rodriguez. The 28-year-old was killed instantly Sunday night when a Hialeah police cruiser responding to an emergency call ran a red light and crashed into Rodriguez's Ford Explorer.
I feel so sorry for him because he was a good boy.
Alexis Nodal was the last person to see Rodriguez alive. The victim stopped by Nodal's home for a quick visit.
He called his house, his wife, and say, prepare my food, I'm going home. He was chilling, not in a hurry, nothing. And we talked for 10 minutes, and after that, he left my house and was the accident.
Back at Rodriguez's home, his wife began to worry. Then she and her father-in-law started to search the streets for Lázaro. Rodriguez's father said they stumbled across the accident scene and saw his son's car. Hialeah police maintain Officer Jorge Rodriguez had his lights flashing and siren blaring as he headed north on Palm Avenue, running the red light and crashing right into the victim's car.
We answer calls on emergency mode every day by the thousands, and things like this can't happen. It's the nature of the business that we're in.
Hialeah police will not yet confirm the nature of the emergency call. They say Officer Rodriguez, who's been on the force for about 2 years, is still on duty, even as the department conducts its investigation. And Lázaro Rodriguez leaves behind his wife and 2-year-old daughter. His wake will be held tomorrow at Rivera Funeral Home on Okeechobee. Live in Hialeah, Patricia Andreu, NBC6.
Patricia, thank you. A major DEA investigation into the trafficking of methamphetamine has resulted in more than 120 arrests nationwide, including 3 people in Fort Lauderdale. Now, the DEA says tonight those arrested locally allegedly distributed the drug pseudoephedrine, a cold relief medication, to labs in California and elsewhere. Those labs then illegally used the drug to manufacture methamphetamine, also known as crystal meth. Officials say the suspect used Fort Lauderdale and Orlando to distribute the drug to the labs. More details of the investigation will be announced tomorrow afternoon in Washington. Well, it's prime time for the Republican Party tonight as the GOP convention gets underway in Philadelphia. Just hours into the 2000 convention, we have heard a series of speeches praising George W. Bush and the first arrest of protesters. Reporter Steve Handelsman is following the latest live from Philadelphia tonight. Steve?
Hey, Tony, here in Philadelphia, General Colin Powell has just left this GOP convention podium. He said in George W. Bush, America would find what he called a true leader. But the main event tonight was Laura Bush, in effect auditioning to be First Lady. Sorry about we have some audio problems on that tape. I can tell you pretty much what Laura Bush said. You can quote her. She said that George W. Bush would set what she calls great goals, that he'd work tirelessly to achieve them. And she said his core principles will not change with the winds or the polls or politics or fame or fortune or what she called misfortune. Laura Bush is a former school teacher. Fits in the Republican push here on education, which dovetails with their convention reach out to minorities. The idea being that public schools are worst in big cities in America, cities like Miami, which are minority rich and very diverse. So the Republicans here are reaching out to minorities. You can see it on the floor here. There were African Americans, there were Hispanic Americans, there were Asian Americans, all making appearances here. Didn't look so much like a typical Republican convention. There was a little fife and drum, but there was also an R&B band out here. And finally, via satellite, George W. Bush introduced Colin Powell, the hero of the Gulf War, also talked about education emotionally, saying it's time to stop building so many prisons in America and worry more about our schools. Another Democratic style line coming from a Republican, Tony, at this Republican convention. Back to you in Miami.
All right, Steve, thank you. Well, tonight you are looking live at the Biltmore Hotel in Coral Gables. Speaking of the Democrats, President Bill Clinton will spend the night there after making several stops in Florida. He's helping Democrats try and recapture one of Florida's U.S. Senate seats. At the fundraiser, he attacked George W. Bush and criticized the GOP's prescription drug plan.
Well, there may be a major trade, it looks like, in the works tonight involving the Miami Heat.
Major indeed, and we're talking about a major change in the makeup of the team. Greg Minervini is here now with more. Will Pat Riley pull the trigger on this one?
Well, Tony, we've heard these before, but after another first-round exit from the playoffs this past season, it looks like Pat Riley will finally indeed pull that trigger on a blockbuster deal that will completely shake up Miami's roster. Reports out of Charlotte tonight say the Heat and Hornets have agreed to a 9-player deal. The principals, P.J. Brown and Jamal Mashburn, to Charlotte for all-star guard Eddie Jones and Anthony Mason. The Heat would also include, get this, Otis Thorpe, Tim James, and Rodney Buford for Ricky Davis and Dale Ellis. The trade would officially break up a Heat team that has won 4 consecutive Atlantic Division titles. The deal could be announced officially as soon as tomorrow, coincidentally the same day as the NBA free agent period, which officially begins tomorrow. We'll have more coming up in sports. Back to you.
All right, Craig, thank you. Well, by now you've probably noticed that our news is looking just a little bit different tonight.
Just a little bit. It's all part of the exciting changes that are happening here at NBC6. We just moved to our brand new studios right here in Miramar over the weekend. We're broadcasting tonight from our all-new, all-digital main campus. Our engineers are busy getting everything wired up as we speak, in fact, and workers are putting the finishing touches on our building. Stay tuned in the coming weeks. We promise lots of surprises. So far, so good. We like our new home.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's been an exciting day, and it's going to be an exciting rest of the year here at NBC6. Well, more trouble on board a Concorde flight.
This just about a week after the Air France disaster. We're going to tell you what happened this time.
Officials call it the worst rash of wildfires in a decade. We're going to tell you if firefighters are gaining any ground on battling the blazes out west.
And have you ever dreamed of swimming with the dolphins? Tonight, we're going to take you inside a Florida park that's letting guests get up close and personal.
And you've heard of a woman's biological clock? But how about a man's? Some doctors say it's possible. We'll have the details when we come back.
Experience. It's a mark of distinction.
I have been working with hurricanes and typhoons for 40 years.
A sign of commitment to your craft.
NBC6 represents integrity and cares about the public, and those are things that are important to me.
This hurricane season, Jerry Gerald joins Roland Stetton and the NBC6 Stormwatch weather team.
It was an easy choice. You're going to get the good, solid, accurate information that you need.
The difference is experience. Experience the difference of NBC6. Oh, how'd she find out? Oh, my clubs. Oh, gee. Oh. Oh, she didn't. Sparky.
You need a car? We'll show you the way. Marooney, the best price, guaranteed. When you need a car, you need Marooney.
Sweet revenge, Sparky. Every time I walk in, I'm always amazed at the things that they carry here. You never know what you're going to get. DVDs, big screen TVs, and they have fantastic prices. There's things for the car, office, home.
And this one, I saw it at Sam's Club, and I thought,
100% cashmere sweater for a great price.
they have incredible prices at Sam's Club.
They're affordable. Why do you think I bought 4?
You come in and you save on everything.
I absolutely love shopping at Sam's Club. Oh, it's so worth it.
Join the club and start saving today. What's new for fall 2000? Tropical living with a twist. From where we eat to where we relax, and it's all on sale. Berdine's Home Sale. Save 20 to 40% on great home furnishings. From traditional and classic pieces to all that's new for living well in Florida. And buy it all now with no payments, no interest for 6 months. Get to Berdine's for the details and for the savings. The home fashion sale and event right now at Berdine's, the Florida store.
One person is dead tonight and 2 others have escaped serious injury after a plane registered in Fort Lauderdale goes down to North Carolina. The twin-engine craft crashed in a park near the Raleigh-Durham International Airport. Rescuers had to hike 200 yards to get to the scene. The 2 survivors are listed in satisfactory condition tonight. So far, the names of the people on board have not been released. Well, tonight there is more trouble involving the Concorde.
Nearly a week after the Air France disaster, a British Airways Concorde is forced to make an emergency landing. Now, this on a day that we're learning new information about the crash near Paris. Ari Adzer is here with more details.
Jennifer, they're thinking a fuel leak caused the crash, but it's way too early to tell for sure. Right now, Air France officials are trying everything they can to get the rest of their grounded Concorde fleet up and flying again, while at the same time, British Airways is doing safety checks on its supersonic jets after an emergency landing yesterday. Well, it looks like we're having a problem with that piece there. British Airways, though, had a plane that was trying to make it from London to New York on Sunday. The pilot smelled gasoline, some sort of fuel in the cabin. They grounded the plane in Gander, Newfoundland. On board the plane, 2 celebrities. You had George Benson and Tony Bennett. And while they were on the ground, they were able to go ahead and transfer to a regular jet and fly to New York. So everybody on that flight was okay. In the meantime, the investigation into the crash in Paris is showing that it looks like a fuel leak caused the crash. The fuel leak caused one of the jets engines not to have enough power to take off, and I'm told we have that piece now. Let's take a look. A high-flying Concorde jet grounded in Canada. The captain told passengers he was taking no chances, cutting the flight to New York short by landing in Gander, Newfoundland, because he smelled fuel in the cabin.
Petrol smell, fuel was just overwhelming the whole cabin of the plane. So the pilot basically descended really quickly.
Among the passengers on the flight, singer Tony Bennett, who praised the flight crew's handling of the incident. Jazz great George Benson was also along for the ride.
I did this 36 years ago. They diverted our plane from Italy here.
Oh, they did?
Ran out of fuel.
Concorde or?
No, there was no Concorde 36 years ago.
No, exactly.
People were nervous. I mean, you know, when you have an accident like that a few days ago, you're a bit nervous because, you know, it just happened.
The British Airways Concorde scare comes just a week after the Air France Concorde crash near Paris killed 114 people. Now, crash investigators say it may take a year and a half before they can definitively say what caused that plane to go down. At the moment, investigators say it looks like a blown tire may have ruptured a fuel line, which in turn may have prevented engines from generating enough thrust to perform a normal takeoff. Meantime, British Airways says it will continue flying its Concordes, saying the planes are safe. All the passengers from the flight, which landed in Canada, as I said, were flown safely to New York in a Boeing 737, obviously not supersonically. Tony Bennett's publicist, if you're wondering, said he's doing just fine, and some of the passengers said they'd even fly the Concorde again. Jennifer and Tony?
Okay, Ari, thank you.
Tony Bennett's 73 years old. Looks great, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does. Looked like he was kind of rested and relaxed there considering that ordeal. Hollywood invades the Herald.
Coming up, we're going to show you Tinseltown's take on popular Herald humorist Dave Barry.
But first, untamed wildfires tear a path of destruction across nearly a dozen states. Is there any relief in sight?
I'm meteorologist Roland Stedham. We have a tropical wave to the southeast. It is a weak tropical wave, and I'll tell you how it's going to be affecting our weather. My forecast is coming up next.
NBC6 News is brought to you in part by Walmart. Always low prices, always.
I have the greatest bunch of kids in the world. Someone may only see a handicap, but I see the heart. Small accomplishments mean so much to them. We teach the skills that they're going to need once they get out into the world. The Matching Grants program through Walmart has enabled us to give them educational experiences that we cannot simulate in the classroom. So no matter where they're headed in the future, the experiences that they're having now at Walmart is what's going to make the difference later in life. I love all of these kids. That's what I'm here for.
The E-Class, perhaps the most desirable car in the world.
Love to love you, baby.
Let's go.
That is so not gonna happen.
What's eating you?
Please, that's what.
But I put flea control on you yesterday.
Yeah, not working.
But
Hello, ever hear of Advantage? It stops fleas from biting me in minutes. But I guess I'm not good enough for Advantage.
But I love you.
Well, you could try showing it. A trip to the vet will be nice. Until then, you can fetch your own ball.
Advantage, the fastest flea control.
And don't get it all slobbery.
We're working hard to stop the spread of citrus canker, and we need your help. I'm Agriculture Commissioner Bob Crawford. It's okay to eat your citrus at home, but moving fruit and plant material out of your yard can spread citrus canker like a wildfire. Once the disease is carried into your neighbor's non-infected area, the damage is done, the quarantine area grows. Please help us contain this deadly plant disease. Don't move any citrus or plant material from your property.
The NBC6 Neighborhood Weather Minute is brought to you by Bell South, only on NBC6.
Well, there's a new place in Florida where you can dive with the dolphins and swim with all sorts of sea creatures.
It's all the focus of a brand new theme park in Orlando. NBC6 reporter Whitney Casey takes a look.
our shared reliance on the sea, our common ancestry, or the legendary friendship between lost and lonely sailors. Whatever the myth, magic, and mystery, of all the mammals on the earth, none has inspired our affection as much as the dolphin. Breathers of air. Strong, agile, devoted to their pods, nurturing to their young. Social, playful, and curious, we've only begun to understand the relationship between two extraordinary species.
Jenny is a very well-trained dolphin. She really understands what's going on. I think she understands it better than we do sometimes.
Jenny's also a 500-pound, 7-foot-long, 22-year-old Atlantic bottlenose dolphin. For years, she's trained as a SeaWorld show dolphin. Now, senior trainer Philip Admire is taking on a new, challenging task, teaching Jenny how to interact with tourists, something she'll do now every day at her new home, Discovery Cove.
They're still wild animals. We make no mistake about that. When we're down with them, we're always thinking about that. And we're making sure that when we're with them, we're thinking about their behavior. And we're making sure that we're reinforcing the types of behaviors that we want to see when they're with us. Because these are large animals, and even when they're just playing around, they bumped into you, that could hurt.
The training process can take months. Here, Philip shows me how Jenny, seeing a simple hand signal, is supposed to present her tail to me.
She didn't, and that's fine. All we're going to do is we're just going to take our hands off her, and we're just going to ignore that behavior for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to go on.
Gregarious in nature, dolphins seek attention. And as Philip explains, any type of attention can reward a correct or incorrect behavior.
If you draw any attention to the behavior you don't want to see, you are reinforcing it. So if you just ignore it, they're finally going to stop doing it, because if they're not getting reinforced, why do it?
So when Philip sees Jenny's desirable behaviors like a tickle or a splash, here he rewards her with what's called a primary reinforcer.
Oh, yes. And you get a big giant herring. All right.
Jenny's favorite reward is not always food. A good rub down or a playful game is also used to reinforce a new skill.
See?
Now that little whistle said what?
That little whistle told her that that's exactly the behavior I wanted to see at that moment.
That's her reinforcement, right?
Well, it can be a reinforcement. I can choose for that to be her reinforcement right now, or I can send her over to Mike for some more reinforcement, or I can walk over there and get some reinforcement, or we can just give her a rub down.
In fact, when a new behavior is finally learned, as a reward, trainers often give the dolphins another new behavior to figure out.
And when they come back, they're all excited. They just did something really great. They come back all excited. Now I'm teaching them something completely new. And they're like, oh, wow, this is great. And their attention, you can just see their attention just click on you like, all right.
And Philip says each one of these tourists entering Jenny's world, young, old, short, tall, red-haired, or brown, all are just a new puzzle for Jenny to solve. A challenge to figure out, and all provide her with a day full of what she loves most, curiosity. And for Philip,
every day of my life, I look at it like this, my worst day at work is someone's best day on vacation.
Whitney Casey, NBC 6. Well, that's certainly one way to look at it, huh? If you want to participate in your own adventure, you can be sure to make reservations. You'll need them, and be prepared to spend about $180. Well, it's been 9 days, and there's little progress in the fight against wildfires out west. Fire has consumed a large portion of the Sequoia National Forest in Central California. Now, not too far from there, 8 homes were destroyed by flames in Kennedy Cove near Sacramento. Nearly 50 fires are raging in 10 states tonight. Fire officials say it is the worst fire season in more than a decade.
Well, they could use that tropical wave that we're expected to get tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been very hot and dry out west. In the meantime, from pretty much the Mississippi Valley and points east from there, it has been wet, especially in the northeast. This pattern has been locked into place. And for us in South Florida, a weak tropical wave is headed this way. Very weak.
A weak one.
Just a weak one. It's not a hurricane or a tropical storm or anything like that. Take a look at our satellite picture, folks, and right now what we have cooking is just showers and storms to the west. Most of the showers and storms settling down for the night, and also a little scattering of showers sitting right off the coastline of Broward. But these showers may drift in later on tonight on the breeze, and there you can see some of these showers out here to the west as well. Now watch right here on our vapor loop. There's a little low developing in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Again, not a tropical system, but as this low continues to migrate